Thank you, sir. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Cabinet Ministers, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament, I rise to thank His Excellency, the President, for his most gracious speech on the 12th of November, in formally opening the 2019-2020 session of Parliament. It was a speech that exudes pride, hope, opportunity, patriotism. It was also a speech that acknowledged the challenges that we face as a nation and calling on a united Fiji. It was a speech that promised that we will continue with the reform agenda that he had set out in his speech last year and identified the new legislative agenda to add on to the current one. It was a speech that stressed on the importance of the Constitution in nation building. It was also a speech that drove home a few truths to us as members of this august House, reminding us about the sanctity of the position that we hold and the responsibility that comes with that position. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency also spoke about elements in society who seek to sow politics of fear rather than preach the proven power of unity. Honorable Speaker, this politics of fear, it's real. I have a real-life experience that I would like to share with this august House. I'm talking about the politics of fear that was sowed against some of us who were named in a curse. Not fear for ourselves, but for our children, who are also included in the curse. I know that Honorable Ngernger Tambua has apologized yesterday, albeit a conditional apology. But I would like to share this personal experience with you so that maybe in one small way, we can, as members of this august House, think seriously about statements that we so carelessly post on social media for the sake of political expediency, or, to borrow her own words, out of anger and disgust. I speak not only as a member of Parliament or as the Minister for Children, I speak as a mother whose children have been cursed by a leader of this nation by virtue of her membership of this august House. As a mother, I have tried as much as I could to shield my children from the trappings of politics, to give them an upbringing that any parent would want for their children. The curse made my husband and I sit down with our 18 and 13-year-old, telling them to be cautious always about their safety when in school or when outside the house, telling our 18-year-old child at university to be home before dark and to always make sure that she was with a friend no matter where she was. It made me paranoid as a parent, turning up to a birthday party our daughter was attending to take her home when the party had barely started, out of fear for her safety. That is fear, Honorable Speaker. That's what fear does. What made us fearful as parents was first and foremost the fact that the curse was made by a member of this House, a national leader, against our children. Children who did not sign up to be used as political football. As a member of this House, whether we like it or not, we attract a following of minds and we influence behaviors. That curse came from a place of deep irresponsibility and, to quote the honorable member, out of anger and disgust. When we sow fear as members of this House, when we speak out of anger and disgust, targeting specific people we may not agree with, people react. People believe in what we say, and as followers or non-followers, they can act to bolster or suppress what we say in this House. Such is the power we wield with the words that we speak. If anger and disgust become the cornerstone of what we say as national leaders, then what hope can the people we serve have in us? Listening to the speeches made in this House over the past few days, from the Honorable Leader of Opposition down, they're all the same, speeches of gloom and doom. Sowing politics of fear rather than preach the proven power of unity. Elements who choose to undermine our prosperity rather than support Fiji's long-term economic growth and sustainability, to borrow His Excellency's words. Speeches that obviously seek to score some political points by trashing His Excellency's speech and calling for the resignation of the Honorable Prime Minister and all of us on the side of the House. In their dreams, do they ever consider the impact of their speeches on the citizens of this nation? Is it their intention to cultivate and keep alive a spirit of ill will, distrust, and fear upon the people that we serve? What does it make them as national leaders? Is that the kind of leadership that they think the Fijian people want? I doubt it. No wonder His Excellency saw it fit to speak on this matter. And despite His Excellency's plea on this point, we still heard such speeches from opposition members all week. And that is the reason why the word politics will continue to attract a negative connotation. It is because of such irresponsible utterances that pay no regard to the greater good. Statements that are made for political expediency, words that sow politics of fear, and actions that mirror the nature of such statements. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency spoke extensively about the Constitution and its cornerstone of equality, non-discrimination, and the Bill of Rights, things that we would think that nobody in their right mind could possibly oppose, especially the 51 members of this Parliament. Honorable Speaker, our assembly in this august House is the direct result of our Constitution, and the critics of the supreme law of the land, who happen to be sitting on the other side of the House, make us on this side of the House question again the integrity of those members. I have said this before and I say it again, because the same members, like us on this side of the House, are here on the strength, the validity, and the legality of that Constitution. I take this time, Honorable Speaker, to remind all of us that we are bound by a common oath to obey, uphold, and maintain the same Constitution. Honorable Speaker, I am humbled to be part of a government that has the people of this country at heart, especially the vulnerable and marginalized members of our society. The core mandate of the Fijian government remains service to all Fijians, irrespective of gender, faith, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or geography. The net result is that, while reaching the furthest, is that we do not leave any Fijian behind. As a testament to this, an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Naisongo of Nukulau village on the border of Naitasiri and Ra, got married on Monday this week when government's REACH team visited their village. The couple's eldest child is 42 years old, and they've been living together all these years without getting married because of inaccessibility to services. So government takes those services to them where they live. So today, I would like to acknowledge government's REACH team, headed by Mr. Felipe Nayadalevu from the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, and the partner agencies, Ministry of Justice, Births, Deaths and Marriages, Ministry of Itauke Affairs, Volikaombula, Legal Aid, and the Fiji Police Force. For this week, this team has been combing the remote communities of the Tikina of Nalawara, providing services to geographically marginalized Fijians. Since its inception in 2015 to December 2018, REACH has provided essential government and non-government services to over 66,000 Fijians in 956 communities. Such services include births, deaths, and marriages registration, actual weddings, legal aid services, VKB registrations, teen registrations, social protection program applications, health checks, banking services, and the list goes on. It is also important to note that most of the communities visited are geographically marginalized, making it a huge challenge for residents to access these services, which is why government takes the services to them where they live. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency also made mention of Fiji being signatory to all 9 human rights treaties. The Ministry for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation is directly guided by 3 of them, namely the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. The reality is that, as a nation, we need to consistently focus on the most vulnerable and marginalized in society if we are to realize our full potential. It is so easy to leave the furthest behind unreached and to widen inequality in an economy that is rapidly changing into a contemporary society like ours is. But my faith in government and the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister gets renewed on a daily basis when I see firsthand the continued implementation of government social protection programs for the vulnerable and the marginalized in Fijian society. Laws and programs that make them visible, programs that tell them that government cares and that they have not been forgotten. The poverty benefit allowance, targeted at families that do not have a sustainable source of income. Social pension for those over 65 years who are not earning an income and who do not have any other form of superannuation. Care protection allowance for those single-parented children of school-going age without a sustainable source of income. Disability allowance for people living with disabilities. Insurance cover for all the primary beneficiaries of the 4 programs covering them for injuries, their homes in cases of fire, and for their next of kin to help with funeral expenses for the primary beneficiary. Also a $3,000 cover to be given to their next of kin for those aged 60 years and less, and a reduced cover for those between 61 and 69 years old. The Rural Pregnant Mothers Food Voucher Program, the bus fare subsidies for the elderly and disabled, and that's only for the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Honorable Speaker. In his speech, His Excellency also spoke about the dismantling of a culture of violence against women and girls. To this end, Honorable Speaker, government, through the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, will, before the end of this year, begin the process towards the consolidation of our first national action plan for the prevention of violence against women and girls. The Fijian government recognizes its obligation to prevent violence against women and girls, and working closely with all relevant stakeholders and partners, and in alignment with our national and international guiding commitments, including the National Development Plan, the National Gender Policy, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the Beijing Platform for Action, amongst others. The Fiji National Gender Policy was adopted in 2014, and the Ministry is drafting at present its forthcoming 5-year Strategic Action Plan, 2020 to 2025, of which elimination of violence against women and girls is a key component. The government also recognizes that we must now embark on a rigorous approach to prevent violence against women and girls, while the concerted investment in violence against women and girls response services continues. And on this note, government acknowledges the sterling services provided by non-government organizations in response services over the years. The National Plan of Action to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls aims to lead a whole-of-government, evidence-based, measurable, and inclusive 5-year National Prevention Plan of Action, 2020 to 2025, with an emphasis on stopping violence before it starts. This includes scaling up evidence-based policies, programs, and initiatives that promote transformative change and shifting the harmful social norms that drive violence against women and girls. Honorable Speaker, still on the topic of gender equality in the areas of economic participation and opportunity, education, health, and political empowerment, Fiji's ranking on the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap has improved significantly in those areas since 2015, moving 15 places up in 2018. In fact, Fiji is the only Pacific Island country to be ranked in the World Economic Forum's report. Honorable Speaker, government through the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation also looks after the policy agenda and programs relating to the elderly. Apart from the social pension scheme for those aged 65 years and over who no longer earn an income and have no other form of superannuation, and the monthly bus fare subsidy for those aged 60 years and over, government also administers 3 state homes for the elderly. Last week, I had the humble privilege of officiating at the groundbreaking event for the upgrade and extension of the Golden Age home in Lambasa. It is envisaged that the project will finish in July 2021 and will showcase a fully elderly-friendly environment for residents. Similar upgrades will follow for the other 2 state homes for Lautoka and Suva. Honorable Speaker, the Convention on the Rights of the Child emphasizes that the best interests of children should be respected at all times, and their special needs should be accommodated. A child-sensitive social protection program is one which ensures that the rights of the child and takes into account all the factors that might place children in a vulnerable position. The Care and Protection Allowance under Government Social Protection Program today caters for all parents and guardians of children below the age of 18 years who do not have a source of income, to cater for the immediate welfare and educational needs of their children. This assistance is not limited to children outside of state care, but is also for children who are under the care of the Director of Social Welfare in residential homes across the country. It is this government that has enabled all Fijian children to attain primary to secondary education for free and with free bus fare, which undoubtedly has eased the financial burden off the shoulders of many poor families across the nation. Honorable Speaker, persons with disabilities face various impediments to the enjoyment of their human rights, and thus social protection programs are required to employ the utmost sensitivity in regards to their needs. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities requires that social protection programs incorporate the key principles of, amongst other things, respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, non-discrimination, full and effective participation and inclusion in society, and equality of opportunity and accessibility, key principles that are reflected in our 2013 Constitution. The initiatives of the Fijian government were well articulated by the Honorable Assistant Minister for Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation, Honorable Vina Bhatnagar, when she delivered her address earlier this week. To that end, I would also like to pay tribute to the late Dr. Sitibeni Yanuyanutawa, who passed away earlier this month. Dr. Yanuyanutawa was a man who committed the latter part of his life to addressing issues which impacted on the lives of persons with disabilities through his position as the Executive Director of the Fiji National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities. In that position, he also worked closely with government in looking at needed policy reforms to plug the gaps that we had in this area in anticipation of our signing up to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2017 and our national law that followed a few months after. Honorable Speaker, His Excellency had also very powerfully reminded this august House about what needs to be done and what we must strive for. Members of this august House have been rightfully reminded that we must not lose sight of our pledge to our people, the very people who have put all of us here. His Excellency spoke about doing what is best for our country and that we think beyond gender, ethnicity, religion, and socioeconomic status. The destiny of our country is in our hands, not only through the development commitments of government, but also through the words that we speak in this House and outside this House on issues that matter to the people that we serve. And I say this at an opportune time as we embark on the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence, beginning next Monday until 10th December. For those 16 days, let's try and put politics aside and all use our voices to denounce violence against women in all its forms. As members of this House, we are privileged in so many ways. With that privilege, Honorable Speaker, comes a huge responsibility. A responsibility to ensure that we, by our words, do not instill feelings of ill will and distrust between ethnicities or communities or even gender. A responsibility to do away with racist divisiveness that led us to some of the darkest days in the life of our nation, and a responsibility to advocate for unity in the face of our diverse ethnicities, cultures, and traditions, to find strength in those diversities, and to build bridges where these diversities seem insurmountable. In doing that, we must always keep in mind that no difference will ever be worth driving the people that we serve against each other, because it is ultimately to those people that we owe a duty, and it is because of them that we serve. I thank you.
Thank